Hey guys, it's that time of year again, so today I'm going to be bringing you a couple of new holiday cookie recipes. I figured out a keto hot chocolate peppermint cookie and a keto cream cheese cookie. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alycia and I've been a chef most of my life. I'm a pastry chef and now a mom to a toddler. And I'm here to bring you a bunch of tips and tricks on healthy, keto, low carb meals, desserts, snacks. So if you enjoy this type of content, please hit the subscribe button down there. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Leave me comments and share with all your friends and family. It all helps my channel grow and to bring you new recipes every Saturday. I'm getting into the holiday spirit. We just had a little bit of snow and this is our first snowstorm of the year. It's right after Thanksgiving. I got my chocolate peppermint mocha to drink while I'm making these cookies. I'm diving headfirst into the Christmas season right now. So let's get started on these cookies. So depending on what kind of texture you want on these cookies is going to determine how long you kind of chill them for. If you make them the night before and then you roll them the next day, they're going to be a little bit more fluffy in the middle and still crispy on the bottom. But if you scoop them after only a little bit of time in the fridge, roll them and bake them, you're going to have a thinner cookie that's like crispier and less like soft in the middle. But we're going to start with getting my stuff ready. It's not a normal day in the bakery today because the day after Thanksgiving, everybody's home. And I just figured out these recipes like yesterday, right before we went over our family's house for Thanksgiving. So we're gonna need 2 sticks of butter. And since these are cream cheese cookies, we're gonna be adding some cream cheese into here. They have a little bit of tang from the cream cheese. They got a soft, pillowy center, crispy edges, if you chill them long enough. If you don't chill them very much, they get kind of flat and crispy. Everything should be softened. There's 2 sticks or 8 ounces or 1 cup of butter, 3 ounces. And this recipe I actually kind of followed. I saw it on Facebook, like someone took a picture of an old magazine clipping or cookbook of like a cream cheese cookie, and that's where I started with this recipe. A lot of times when I follow just regular recipes, I usually minus the sweetener a little bit. So for me, these cookies aren't super sweet. They might be perfect for you guys though. So I'm trying to make sure I don't make things too sweet. My taste buds are just kind of still messed up, I think, from having Van. Even though I've been on keto this whole time, I still like things like super sweet. So the cream cheese cookie was pretty similar to my butter cookie recipe. So that's what I kind of based this off of, but I did up the sweetener a little bit because we're adding the cream cheese in there in addition to the stick of butter. So I did 3/4 of a cup. 144 grams. It is much easier to weigh instead of trying to grab different measuring cups and quite a bit more accurate. To that, we're going to add 2 egg yolks. You do want to whip your cream cheese, butter, and sweetener together for quite a while to get it a little bit less grainy of a texture on your sweetener and to get your butter nice and fluffy. I'm not going to run the mixer while I'm talking, so I'm going to get everything else ready to go. So we don't need our scale for this, but it's just here. My yolk broke. I don't even know if I'm going to use my egg whites for anything right now, but I hate throwing them away. They'll probably sit in my fridge until I have to throw them away. Okay, so our 2 egg yolks, we need some vanilla, and then our dry ingredients. So I purposely didn't use any egg white protein in this. You probably could swap out some of the coconut flour for the egg white protein instead, but I'm trying not to use my egg white too much. So we need 80 grams of an unflavored whey protein, which is about 1 cup. And to that, we're gonna add 40 grams of coconut flour. I'll do it in cups for you. We'll see what it is. I try to just scoop it lightly. You can also probably do 3 times the amount of almond flour as coconut flour. It ends up being about the same carb count. So that was only 26 grams. So if you get 30, which is what you're supposed to get, gotta pack it down a little bit apparently. And then 1 tablespoon is supposed to be 7 grams, which that was. So you gotta pack it down. So probably only a teaspoon. 40 grams. So it is difficult to get the right measurement when you're doing it in cups. Then we just need a half teaspoon of xanthan gum, which I'm using Anthony's. You may need a little bit more if you're using a brand that isn't as strong. Okay, so that's all our ingredients. I'm gonna get this whipped up, add in the, forget my vanilla extract. You can add any extract you want for this. Eggs and then dry ingredients, and then we're gonna get in the fridge to chill. I'm gonna stop and scrape down a couple times. We'll be back when this is nice and fluffy. See, it's getting nice and light and fluffy. Might go for another couple seconds just to get it a little less grainy. Be good to go. The original recipe I was following only had a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract in 2 sticks of butter and 3 ounces of cream cheese. I upped it to 1 teaspoon because I think a half a teaspoon in this much butter and flour and everything isn't gonna taste like much. It isn't gonna give you much vanilla flavor. And then I upped the egg yolks a little bit because whenever you add coconut flour to anything, in like an original recipe, you wanna up the fat or the egg or something. Coconut flour is a little bit more drying, so you need to add a little bit more fat into the cookie or whatever it is you're making. So I'm gonna add the egg yolks and dry next. Make sure all that egg yolk gets incorporated. Once the dry ingredients go in, you're not gonna be able to mix it too much because it does get real thick. So make sure everything's incorporated before that goes in. If you really want to, you could switch to a paddle at this point, but I don't like dirtying more dishes than I have to. Sorry, apparently I didn't hit my overhead shot on that, so you didn't see what I was showing you. You want to make sure that's all nice and combined, and then add your dry. Scrape down because all that is in there. So a paddle would definitely be easier to incorporate all the dry ingredients than a whisk. I like using the whisk to get our sweetener dissolved a little bit in there. So I always take it off and give it a really good mix. You'll see why when we do our chocolate cookies, because even though it looks mixed, you might still have streaks of butter in there. And if you have a streak of butter in one of your scoops of cookies, it'll flatten out and melt, so you don't want that. So we're gonna let this chill in the fridge for a little while. You can literally scoop it and put it right in, but you will have a pretty flat cookie and more crispy. I want this to chill down fast, so I'm gonna spread it out. So that's gonna go in the fridge. We'll get on to making the dough for our hot chocolate peppermint cookies. I set a timer for 30 minutes for our dough, just so I can give you an idea of how long you should chill it for. So we're getting on to the second one, which I used my peanut butter blossom cookie as kind of a guide for that one. So I upped the sweetener in this one also a little bit because of adding the cocoa powder. So I kept it pretty similar to my peanut butter blossom cookie recipe, but I upped the sweetener and I had to make tweaks to the flour because of the cocoa powder. So I just replaced 4 ounces of the peanut butter with another 4 ounces of butter. And then I upped the sweetener by a 1/4 cup. I did 144 for this also, just 3/4 of a cup. I didn't up it a ton because we're putting the chocolate chips in here, which are also sweet. But like talking about my taste buds and stuff, like I try my chocolate chip cookies now and they don't taste sweet enough for me. I don't know why my taste buds won't go back to how they were last time I was on keto, but it's frustrating. We only need 1 egg, 1 whole egg. So for this, we're doing 60 grams of whey protein. So about 3/4 of a cup. And that's when you like scoop it with the measuring cup and level it off. If you do it the way you're supposed to like measure flour with spooning it into the cup, you end up getting less. 60 grams. There's a lot of static in the air today. My scale's going crazy. The storm is coming. Only 20 grams of coconut flour. So I'm using this black cocoa from Olive Nation. The problem is there's no carb count on this, so I just got to go by what my recipe says for what the cocoa powder is for carb wise. It's going to be 30 grams, which Each tablespoon is 5 grams, so it would be 6 tablespoons. I'm gonna get this coconut out of here. You definitely want to sift your cocoa. This stuff is messy. Get cocoa everywhere. In this one, there is a little bit of baking soda, and I put a little bit of gelatin, just like my peanut butter blossom, to give a little bit extra chew to the cookie. A half teaspoon of soda, half teaspoon of xanthan, and then 1 tablespoon of beef gelatin, which I just weighed out as 10 grams. Give that all a whisk together. The last ingredient is peppermint extract. We're going to add 1 teaspoon to the mix. Stop and scrape down. You got all that butter still in there. I'll get that all nice and fluffy. I did turn my oven on 350 because I have about 15 minutes left on the cookie dough in the refrigerator. Depending on how long your butter was out is how long this is going to take. Warmer butter helps to melt the crystals faster and gets it whipped up quicker. Any 1-for-1 erythritol will work in this. I have not tested with minusing a lot of erythritol. I know some people have had success only using a tiny bit, but again, your cookies might spread a little bit more or less. But I will be experimenting eventually with not using sugar alcohols. I know you can't use all allulose in cookies because they'll get way too soft, and if you keep them in too long, they will get really brown. Smells pepperminty. Because I only have 1 bag of the peppermint chips, for tests, I did no peppermint, I did vanilla, and I put peanut butter chips in it, and those turned out really good too. So if you want chocolate peanut butter, and they're lower in carbs because I used Chalk Zero chips. Lily's peanut butter chips are pretty high in carbs too, but I like Lily's chips better. They taste so good. Okay, once the eggs incorporated, add in all your dry ingredients. Oh, we gotta measure out our chips too. So the amount of chips you put in here and which ones will greatly affect your carb count because they are so high in carbs, at least the ones I'm using. When I was testing, I was doing 144 grams, which is about 3/4 of a cup, but I cut it back a little bit because our chips are so high in carbs. So 96 grams is a heaping half cup, or 3.5 ounces, which is like 21, 22 carbs just for the chips themselves. So kind of high. So this is what I mean by, you can tell with chocolate, you have a lot of butter hanging out in there that's not mixed in. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. So there's a lot of butter that needs to get mixed in with it still, even though it was pretty much mixed the exact same amount as the butter cookies. Add in our chips, give it a good mix. I'm excited for these cookies. Okay, so we are going to let this chill for a while also while we get the other ones done. Give it another mix once we get it out of here. All the butter. And spread that out, same as the other one. And we'll get to scooping our cream cheese cookies into the fridge. Okay, the dough has been chilling for about 30 minutes, so we're gonna try these out. I'm gonna make them a little bit smaller this time. The whole batch of this cookie is about 13 grams of net carbs. So however many and how big and small you make them is what your carb count's gonna be for how many cookies you have. So I found the easiest method to do this is to have it on your scale and scoop as you go, and it'll minus the 15. I'm gonna try it for 15 grams each, so counting up by 15. I'm gonna use this scoop and see how we do with that. It's 11, so it's still pretty soft. A whole one of these scoops, my metal scoops. And I like to scoop it all and then roll it all. So 15 to 14 per. I'm only gonna bake a few at a time just to show you different amounts of chilling, how they turn out. They do spread a little bit And the cream cheese cookie that was in that recipe, they put a little bit of colored sugar on them. We don't have like commercially made ones, so I'm gonna use the ones I made. This is just some classic granular monk fruit erythritol blend. I'm gonna put a little bit on the cookies. Red and green. I just put a little bit of liquid dye in there. It's better with a gel food coloring for sure. You can get a deeper color without it making it too wet. Okay, we're gonna put these in 4 minutes, turn them 4 minutes. I'll show you what those look like. And then I'm gonna throw this back into the refrigerator and let it chill even longer. And then we'll do another batch. So that is 4 minutes. Gonna do another 4 minutes. Be back when those come out of the oven. Okay, it's been 8 minutes. And they are just starting to get crispy around the edges. That's what you want. So they're gonna be a little bit crispy on the bottom, super soft and pillowy and melt in your mouth in the middle if you chill your cookies. Okay, our other dough has been chilling for about 30 minutes, so we're gonna get that scooped and bake some of those off. These I do at about an ounce. Again, you can make them any size you want, but just remember the bake time will probably be different and obviously the macros will be different. I might make them a little bit smaller since I want more cookies at smaller for the same carbs as like one cookie. So 24 grams is about where this scoop does it. 24, 48-ish. It all depends on how many chips you get in a scoop too, like how full you're gonna have to do your scoop. 72, right? Yeah. Okay, so these, I give them a roll. Someone mentioned in one of my videos at some point, why do you roll them if you're just squishing them? Because when you squish them, if they're not rolled, they tend to crackle at the edges. I kind of did this in a weird pattern, but this dough is still pretty soft. If you leave it in all night, it gets really hard. It's hard to scoop. These go in for 5 minutes, turn them 5 minutes. I'm gonna keep an eye on them though because they're not super chilled. I don't want them getting too done at the edges. These are harder to tell when they're done, obviously, because they're dark chocolate, but we'll keep an eye on them after 9 minutes. That was 5 minutes. I'm only gonna set it for 4 more because they weren't chilling for very long. The best way I know to tell when chocolate cookies are done is when you start smelling the cocoa cooking. That's when you know you should probably pull them out of the oven. I like just started smelling it. There's 30 seconds left, so I'm gonna let it go 30 more seconds. But as soon as you pretty much smell that going, that's when you know you should pull them out. Okay, they're a little bit doughy looking in the middle, but that means you're not over baking them. I don't like super crispy cookies, so if you want them less doughy in the middle, definitely squish them down a little bit more. That way you don't get the dome in the middle and you won't get like a soft center. The cream cheese cookie dough has been in there for about another 30 minutes, so they've been chilling for about an hour now. So let's scoop the rest of those and get them in the oven. Once the cream cheese cookies are cooled, you can move them from the tray. I'm just gonna use the same parchment paper and scoop more cookies onto it. Dough is definitely stiffer now. Try to put these in some kind of order this time. Roll them and squish them. The original recipe that I was following, they did have like kind of broken edges kind of thing. They told you to use the bottom of a glass to smush them down. So my cookies maybe aren't as traditional. They are definitely delicious though. So I don't know if using the glass would make a difference, or if it's just my recipe is different, that I'm not getting those edges. Let me know in the comments below if you have a traditional cream cheese cookie recipe, what the texture is supposed to be for your specific recipe, and like what are edges supposed to look like and stuff like that. I'd like to know what all you guys use as your cream cheese cookie recipes. So maybe I can make another rendition. These are gonna go in 4 turn 4 still because they haven't been chilling too much longer than the other cookies. So obviously these are a little bit different because I made them bigger, but this was overnight chilled and right into the oven after I scooped and rolled and flattened. 5 minutes, turn 5 minutes, and then these were sitting out while these were cooking, so they got a little bit darker. 5 turn 5 also. Okay, so I scooped and rolled all the other cookies. You can throw them into the freezer after you scoop, roll, and flatten, and then put them into a Ziploc and have them ready to go whenever you want. I would just throw them on a sheet tray and throw them in the fridge to chill and defrost overnight. Or you can pull them out while your oven is preheating and kind of let them defrost a little bit before you bake them. You might need to bake them a little bit longer. You might want to minus the temperature a little bit if you're doing that method, because they're not going to defrost all the way before you get them into the oven. But if you do it in the refrigerator overnight, defrost them, 350, probably about 5, turn 5, and they'll be ready to go. Okay, so these were 4, turn 5, and I forgot the sugar on them. Let's see if we can add it now. But yeah, so because they were chilled for a little bit while longer, they took a little bit longer to get the brown around the edges. We'll do the other tray in red. It should still melt on there. Let's scoop the rest of our chocolate cookies. We got our chocolate dough. Just gonna roll and bake these guys. Dough is pretty hard, so we're not gonna be able to roll them until we get them all scooped probably. I'm gonna do a couple not squished and see what happens. Pretty sure they spread just as much. So if you squish them down a lot, I'll show you if you squish them a lot. Okay, so we'll leave some of those as balls. We'll put that in 5 minutes, turn them 5 minutes because they've been chilling for a little bit while longer, so they're a little bit cooler than the last batch we did. And just like the cream cheese cookies, you could roll, flatten a little bit, freeze them, and do the same thing cooking wise. You can freeze all the cookie dough. I do suggest cooking it from cookie dough instead of baking it all and then freezing them. You can, and they taste fine, but it's always better to have a fresh baked cookie out the oven than pulling them out of the freezer already baked. We'll be back when all these are done and we can give them all a taste. Okay, so these have been in for 10 minutes. You can see they're not as cooked because they were chilled longer. I like them like this because I like really soft cookies, but if you want them crispy, definitely squish them out more if they've been refrigerated for a while because they're gonna stay domed in the middle. That's what happened with the one that was squished all the way. These ones were still balls, so these are gonna be really chewy in the middle. There's a lot of different ways you can do it depending on how you like your cookies. We're gonna let all these cool, and I'm gonna get the count on how many of each I made so I can get carb counts for you, and then we're gonna try one. Okay, so these guys here were rolled, flattened, and put in the fridge. So this is what will happen if you let them defrost overnight in the fridge on a sheet tray and then cook them the next day. So they don't spread as much, they're a little bit thicker, and they'll be a little bit softer in the middle. Okay, all our cookies are baked. So these are the cream cheese cookies. These were completely thawed, not squished. Half an hour, straight out of the refrigerator when it was rolled and smushed, and then straight into the oven. And then these I didn't roll and just squished them, so they're a little bit more oddly shaped. But we got 45 cookies out of this batch. I figured out the macros on it, and the only thing that's divisible by really is by 5. So 5 of these cookies is 1 gram of net carbs. Obviously all the macros will be below for total carbs and all that stuff. If you do have 6, that's when my nutrition label goes up to 2 net carb. So it works just like a regular nutrition label in my Recipale that I use to figure out my macros. So those are all those cookies. And then this is the one I squished out a lot. So this one's gonna be a little bit crispier, but this was 30 minutes, an hour, and then these were completely chilled in the fridge, and I put them into the oven. So because of the chocolate chips in these, each one of these is 1 gram net carbs. They're a little bit higher because of the Lily's chocolate chips. But like I said, there's a lot of different swaps you can make. Those are all the macros. Let's give them a taste. I'm not gonna eat one of these because they just came out of the oven, but I really want to. I'm gonna eat one of the ones that is a little bit doughier in the middle. Still a little bit soft. I don't know if you'll even see them. It's too dark. Still hard to see because they are so dark inside. Way less grainy looking than the ones with the almond flour that I did in 2020. And these are gonna taste a lot better. You still get the crispy outside, but it's chewy in the middle. I'm not a huge fan on how those chips baked up. They're pretty hard. So maybe it would be a better idea to chill your dough a little bit more and put the chips right in the middle of the cookie. That way they don't get too baked because they got really like hard in the cookie. Though you live and learn. Still really good though. Chocolate and peppermint. So this is definitely not really soft in the middle. And if you want to bake them a little bit longer, these could probably have baked another minute. But they're pretty crispy. If you like crispy cookies, flatten them out more and bake them a little bit longer. Definitely crispy. Excited to have all these cookies. I'll probably give some away, of course. Whenever I go over to anybody's house, I always bring all my experiments with me. Okay, now on to the cream cheese cookies. If you scoop them and flatten them and bake them right away, they'll probably spread a little bit more even than this. I think that was because it was chilled for a little bit. It wasn't quite as soft and fluffy as straight out of the mixer would be, but these are still like a little bit soft in the middle. There is a little bit of a tang from that cream cheese. They're crispy, but they're still like soft. They're like crispy on the bottom, but they're like soft in the middle. These are really good. I bet they'd be really good dipped in milk. Only 1 net carb for 5 of them. Not too shabby. Pretty delicious. So I hope you enjoyed this 2024 holiday cookie video. I didn't get one out last year, and I felt obligated that I needed to at least get one video out this year with a couple cookies for you. So I'm gonna link my cookie playlist at the end. I got tons of different cookies, not just holiday ones. So go check that out if you wanna see a different cookie video and try a different recipe this year. What other cookies are you missing for your holidays? Let me know in the comments below. I really wanna figure out a duccidati, but the filling is gonna be tricky. But what are your favorites? Leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to check out my Amazon links and the blog link to the full recipe in the description box below. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'll be back with more keto, low carb, baked goods, and healthy meals in general. Bye guys. Happy keto, low carb baking, and have a Merry Christmas.